whenever you're ready.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב שבת אחים גם יחד.
Page 128.
כי אשמרה שבת אל ישמרני. כי אשמרה שבת אל ישמרני. הועילו מעט בינו וביני. הועילו מעט בינו וביני. כי אשמרה שבת אל ישמרני.
On page 129. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this shul be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to richer and more meaningful life. We turn to page 131 for Yismachu Hashamayim.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו.
Let us turn forward to the most beautiful of Shabbat Piyutim, of songs, L'chadodi, on page 138.
לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמעו וזכו בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל עם יוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולפארת ולתהילה. לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שידברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We rise.
בואי ושלום עטרת פלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
And so we turn now to welcoming Shabbat with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, and we turn to page 118. Philip, I'd like to invite you to light our Shabbat candles for us, if you're willing. Seems like you are. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. And as just in a moment we'll turn to one another, wishing each other a Shabbat Shalom, but I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands.
It accidentally got blown out.
Of the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders both past and present. Let's take a moment turning to those around us, wishing one another a Shabbat Shalom and a special welcome.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. You have to cross the aisles, people. So as we have welcomed one another, has everybody had a chance to meet Kevin and Gracie from Canberra? This is Kevin and Gracie from Canberra. So Kevin used to be a member here, and then he decided he liked the cold better. Is that right? I also would like to, it's good to be back. It's good to have you back. So when were you here?
Back when Charles Waller was rabbi.
So when Charlie was here, that means you would have known me back then. Do you remember me?
Yep. Harris, Fred,
And Lynn, yes.
a while back
Do I look the same, right?
Correct answer.
Correct answer.
Not age today.
Let us have a seat as we join together with Shalom Aleichem on page 142. And before Gina joins in singing that, of course, I'd like to welcome those of you who are joining us through our live streaming across WA, across Australia, and of course across the world. Thanks.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zetayim LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We rise for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144.
Yitgadol v'yitkadosh me'raba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach erotei v'yamlech malchotei. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'rachei d'chol beit Yisrael. Hagala, hagala, u'bizman karif. V'imru, Amen. Yesh me'raba mevorach, le'olam olam me'amaya. Yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitbar v'yitwaman v'yitnaseh, v'yithalal, v'yithalel, v'yithalal, shmei v'kudsha b'rechu, le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran b'alma, v'imru, Amen. Baruch et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, le'olam ha'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach, le'olam ha'ed.
Page 149. This is the hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai,
Hama'ariv.
Aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha avta, Amcha avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta,
אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה. ואהבת אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai 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 mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha neda b'kodesh nora tehilot Osefel, Nora Tehilot, Osefel, Malchutecha, Rauvanecha, Bokei Yam Lifnei, Moshe uMiriam, Zeli, Anu ve'Amru, Adonai Yimloch, Le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעת הטובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים. ושמרו on page 162.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise for the Amidah on page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehillatech. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehillatech. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el
Hashem b'chol yom yahalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Continue silently with the prayers of our hearts or the words of the page. יהיו לרצון אמרתי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, Adonai tzuri v'gorli. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. We turn back to Shalom Rav, page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
May God bring peace to the world, tasim leolam, and let us say, Amen. So, we've had a, let's call it, modest victory, if you will, in the Supreme Court in Israel, which is find it very hard to believe, given the current government of the state of Israel. Does anybody know what that is? Has anybody been following the news? And the only reason why I know about it is Professor Jeffrey Gordon brought it to my attention. If anybody knows Jeffrey, he'll be back. Do you know who, you remember Jeffrey? You may not know Jeffrey. Jeffrey is a professor at Ben Gurion University of the Negev. And he lives in the Negev, is an American who is an Israeli. But he was one of the first people to go to establish Ben Gurion University in the Negev. And but UWA has been very good at bringing him out to WA from the Negev. And so he's been a part of our community off and on, and this will be his second visit here this year. So he's coming back. He'll be here on the Bima next Shabbat, and he'll be giving the drush. I will not be here next Shabbat. But he emailed, so we've been in a lot of contact. He'll be here through high holidays even. So it's a long visit. So we're very pleased to have him. And of course, he'll be sharing the Bima at different times and sharing his words of Torah at different times. But he sent me an article and he said, I think you'd be pleased to hear this. He called it a modest victory. And I want to see what your thoughts are on this. So, as we know, what has been happening at the Western Wall on Rosh Chodesh, Women of the Wall celebrates Rosh Chodesh, the new month, with a prayer service and with a Torah service. Now, they don't always, and they haven't always been going up to the Kotel, the Western Wall, pulling out Torahs and reading from Torah, which is customary on Rosh Chodesh, because we're supposed to read Torah on Rosh Chodesh. And what has been happening is the rabbi of the Kotel has been directing not just what we call colloquially the Kotel police, but as well as the Israeli security guards that are there to look for weapons and bombs as you go through security into the Kotel area, has been directing them that if people come through, especially women with Torahs, you are to seize the Sifrei Torah from them. So this is Israel's security, not Kotel. What are they supposed to be? The Kotel guardians. Kotel guardians. That's what they are, essentially. And so Anat Hoffman and her crew took this to the Supreme Court and Iraq, Israel Religious Action Center, and this was in 2020, and at the Supreme Court, guess what happened? Gina's mouthing to me. They won, which says that the security, so when you go through, beep, beep, show us what you have, open your bags, we're going to body search you, that the Israel, whether it's Israel, so these are the police, these are army people, soldiers, they cannot search you for Torahs, just in case you had one under your jacket. They can only search you for bombs, weapons, knives, guns. They cannot search you for a Torah. Both sides have claimed victory. How is it that both sides have claimed victory? Women of the Wall claimed victory, saying, yes, we can now take Torahs in. The actual security people have to focus on security. And the rabbi of the Kotel claimed security, saying they haven't taken away any rights from our Kotel guardians who can still look for a Torah if they want to. Well, they actually can't just search people willy-nilly because they're not a security group. So I wrote back to Professor Gordon, and I said, and this is where I want to see your response. I said, The Supreme Court ruled this way because the Supreme Court doesn't actually care about women of the wall. They're more concerned about Israel's security because that's all the Israel government cares about. What did he write back to me? What did Professor Gordon write back? Over to you. So Margaret says you're right. Why?
Because the Supreme Court has to be unbiased.
It has to be unbiased.
Yes, so that's what they do.
So the Supreme Court is doing that because they are unbiased. Okay? Anybody else want to try? I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong just yet. No? Gina, you usually have something to say.
With Margaret, the Supreme Court looks at the law, and the law says that security forces are there to search for bombs and guns and knives, and so not for other things, not for Torahs, not for lipsticks, not for, random things.
Okay. You're with Margaret? Philip? Robbie? Nothing? No, but they've been doing the bidding of the religious. They have been doing the bidding of the religious. So why, so did, I said that the, what did I say? The Supreme Court actually doesn't care about the women of the wall. They're just doing the bidding of the right-wing government. Because what's happening is that of course we know that the Israeli government is trying to overhaul the judicial system, and it looks like they possibly might. That they're not going to be unbiased. And this is just one of those steps leading towards them becoming biased towards the right-wing government.
When you say they're doing the bidding of the government, it seems to clash with the government's view about trying to dilute their influence. So I'm not sure they're doing the bidding of the government. In fact, they might be doing the opposite in some cases, not in this particular issue.
But I am talking about this issue, yeah. Yeah. Judith. The role of the Supreme Court is to be reasonable, correct? That's, yes. 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 But I'm skeptical, and that's how I titled my response to to Gordon, to Jeffrey, saying skeptical. I believe the Supreme Court has done this because they're just focusing on security, and also the fact that the Supreme Court is slowly being influenced by the right-wing government because of their moving towards judicial reform. I hope they're still intact, but Israel's corrupt, as we know. Our beloved country. Yeah. Okay. What? This lipstick is too sharp. Well, we'll. This pen is too sharp.
Well, there was this week, not related to the Women of the Wall, I don't know if you saw that, it was in the Jerusalem Post, that one of the guards of the Kotel, not the security forces, the guards, was telling an
Guardians.
Guardians was telling an abbot that he had to remove his cross.
an abbot, he had to remove his, which is also not permitted. So actually, I was quite surprised by Professor Gordon's response, by Jeremy's response. He wrote back to me within seconds, so clearly he was also in front of his computer at the same time. And he said to me, which I very rarely hear, Kim, I think you're wrong. He said, I think you're wrong. He says he thinks that this was actually a display of compassion for women of the war. He said he didn't think this was about Israel's security, which was my main point. He said in this case he believed that this was an act of compassion and understanding for equality, for justice, for reasonableness, for reason towards women of the war. And knowing potentially what might come, and that this is, while this is a minor victory for women of the war, it isn't really a victory for the guardians, even though they're trying to claim some sort of victory. But it's a long road ahead. But what it does show us is that this kind of it's not worth giving up hope just yet in Israel on these kinds of issues. It's still worth going to fight, and that for us is so very important. Shabbat Shalom. Well, this is in terms of who in our movement what we consider an issue. So I'm not equating it on the grand scheme of things. Well, what they had to deal with is what was on the table. They had this very small, simple ruling, and they were working on that ruling. You can only rule with what's in front of you. And it was very narrow, and it was very clear, is what can these security guards legally search for. They cannot search for a Torah. They can search for guns and knives and bombs, and Torah isn't an object that is going to hurt anybody. It's not a violent object. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. So they could only rule on that. They couldn't then say, well, we're going to rule on letting women and men pray together across the whole kotel. So, all right. We're going to move now into Aleinu on page 586. And Gracie and Kevin, I invite you to open our ark for us. Let us rise. 586. It'd be lovely to have you on the beamer. When did you leave Perth?
Oh, back in the 90s, I think.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
So we did overlap.
Yeah.
It's only on one side. Oh. One opens, one closes.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת בתודה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יעקב בשמיים ממעל, ושרינת עוזו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יעקב השמיים ממעל,
We turn to page 594, a reading before the Kaddish. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be an oath to lose, a fearful thing, a thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched. And so we remember, as part of Shloshim, Erev Shabbat and Graham Glick. And for the yard sites, part of our congregation, we remember Frederick Pascoe, father of Clive Pascoe, Vivian Cyril Lyons, father of Roy Lyons, Maya Sivan, father-in-law of Lorraine Sivan, Robert Sheldon, father of George Sheldon, Lena Schlafrick, grandmother of George Sheldon, David Slade, father-in-law of Gabby Slade, Peter Ferstad, friend of Thelma Gunsberg and this congregation, Louis Perlin, father of Nadine Perlin, grandfather of Elise Perlin and Nathan Angert, Hyman Harris, father of Leona Liedman, Harry Liedman, father of Bruce Liedman, Hilda Landau, mother of Lou Landau, and Arthur Strauss, grandfather of John Katz and Di Drachenberg, Louis Kahan, uncle of John Katz and Di Drachenberg, and Valerie Katz, mother of John Katz and Di Drachenberg. If you'd like to mention the name of a loved one for Shiva, or for Shloshim, or for Yahrzeit, I invite you to share their names out loud or in your hearts at this time. Gracie, I'd be putting you on the spot here. I recognize that there's a custom that has developed here at Temple David before I got here, that people are invited to share, if they wish, something about their loved one. So just a couple of words, a couple of sentences about who they were. up to you. I am putting you on the spot.
My mother, who died 20 years ago this month, and yes, I remembered her. She was born in Argentina. She married my father in Argentina. I'm a third generation Argentinian descendant of Russian Jews. So yes, we came to Australia. I came to Australia in 1978, and she followed with my father in 1980. And they both died within 2 months of each other.
Wow.
In the 2003, so we commemorate 20 years of the passing with a special stone in this month.
I wish you a long life and a beautiful life. And thank you for sharing. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of our loved ones be for a blessing as we join together with Kaddish Yatom on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, chayachon of Yomechon, v'chayed chol Beit Yisrael, v'gala of Izman Kariv v'maru.
Amen.
Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach l'olam l'omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitpaseh, v'yitada v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Dukudisha b'richu, le'olam min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran v'yama v'yimaru.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Hamakom yenachem echem, Hamakom yenachem echem, b'toch shah havlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved in Zion and Jerusalem and around the world, and we say,
Amen.
Amen. Just a couple of announcements before we end with our final song of Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. TDRS, our religion school, begins. We may be seated. You think I'm going to be a long time, Neil, huh? Begins tomorrow for term 3 in our regular Shabbat morning service at 10:30, followed by the Nosha's lunch. I believe you do need to have booked.
Yes.
So if you haven't booked, it's too late, but I'm sure they might squeeze you in. Mahjong Monday, that's what I'm going to call it, Mahjong Monday, not Mahjong Club, on Mahjong Monday. It's not Mahjong Monday on Monday. Food for thought. We are studying the book of Ecclesiastes, not Ecclesiastics, of Echa, of Lamentations, as we are heading into Tisha B'Av. That is traditionally read at 10:30. If you didn't come 2 weeks ago, you can still come. 10:30 on Tuesday. I can't promise you it will be joyful. Wednesday, Shmooze Club at noon. So you got noshas and smoosh this week. You won't go hungry, but you can't eat on Wednesday technically because it's Tisha B'Av.
They even have a band on Wednesday.
And they even got music. I don't think anybody checked the calendar. Oy vey. 5:15 Israeli dancing, 6:30 ITJ. There's no an adult Hebrew. There is. But please save the date. 6th of August, there will be gardening around the shul. If you love gardening, 6th of August, as well as continuing to clean up the cottage. They are now painting our cottage out back, getting it ready for rental. So if you like to either do gardening or maintenance work, isn't it, you've been doing some maintenance work, Rowan, have you? During school holidays? Yeah, and wasn't it fun?
It wasn't bad, he says.
You got to work with David Mata, who's a good soul. He's a good bloke. But TDRS, anything fun tomorrow? The teachers haven't submitted their lesson plans. Not yet, but we'll start with tefillah on the bima. So I'll see you here at 9 o'clock I'll be here a bit before. So let us do our final. Any other announcements? Nothing? That's it. It's quiz night sold out. 29th.
Yes. Final song, page 657, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu Ve'al Olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu Ve'al Olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam.